Hello and welcome back to The Movies Made Us Do It. Me and Matt are back. How are you, Matt?
I'm pretty good, sir. How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, doing good. Actually made it to the cinema twice.
Yeah.
Which is unheard of.
Always good.
Yeah, I mean it's been a long time. I can't even remember the last film I saw in the cinema. Until this. So yeah, 2 in a row. 2 weeks in a row. Might make it a third. I don't know if I'm going to have time this weekend, but I do want to see John Wick.
Yeah, same here.
I've seen the rest in the cinema, so I kind of feel like should see this one. But yeah,
Wait,
so
I'm pretty sure I didn't see the second one in the cinema,
but
I definitely saw 1 and 3.
I gotta be honest, I struggle to remember what happens in 2 and 3 as separate films. They're kind of like interwoven in my head now.
I've seen them both recently, so I'm okay.
So the third one, the one with Halle Berry.
Yes.
And then the second one is the second one's got that awesome set piece with the concert. Yeah.
In the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
And it's got Ruby Rose in one of the only roles that she was actually really good in.
Because she didn't have to act. Yes.
Yeah. She didn't have to speak or do.
Didn't have to speak. I hear she's quite good in Orange Is the New Black, but I never watched that far ahead to see her in that. Yeah.
I haven't. At some point, I have to go back and finish that.
Yeah, I really liked it. It was just one of those shows I never, continued with, but should have because it was fine.
I mean, as a slight spoiler, no, I won't spoil it but there's one of the characters in particular who is fucking awesome. Something happens and you're like, oh man, that's
right,
devastating. That was. I almost I don't think I want to watch this anymore.
Oh no, I hate when that happens. When something happens.
This is so sad. I don't want to watch this anymore. But it is a really good show. The funniest thing I think about that series is that the main character, who I think it was based on the book of what happened to this woman in real life. She basically smuggled drugs and got caught. And
okay.
She went away for.
7 seasons of TV.
It was like a year, I think she went away for. She didn't go away for very long, but of course her character in the series is like in there for fucking ages.
I was gonna say there's like 5 or 6 seasons or something, isn't there?
Yeah,
so.
And she's the worst character in it. She's just.
Do you know? I thought that watching season 1, I really liked the supporting cast and I hated her, and I've heard that from practically everyone. Yeah.
Almost everybody else is great except for her. She's fucking annoying as fuck.
That is a really weird thing.
Yeah.
But,
It is a good series.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, I'm a big fan of, I liked Oz and I liked Bad Girls.
Oh, God,
so Oz is depressing. If you want a depressing show, there's a depressing show.
I mean, Orange is the New Black is depressing as well. But Oz is I think...
I mean, Orange is the New Black has some levity, right? Because Oz has no levity. It's just depressing as fuck. And so, I mean, to be honest, Bad Girls is as well for the most part. It's pretty dark. But I love both of those shows. So the prison thing, I like the prison drama. So I'm down with it.
I'm a big fan of the prison stuff, but
yeah.
It just so happens that there are some really good ones. So when you're I mean.
I think prison dramas work better as a series rather than a film, generally, because it gives you more time to kind of flesh out those relationships and characters.
Yeah. I mean, I did used to watch Prisoner Cell Block H with my mum.
Of course.
Years ago.
And, of course, The Prisoner, which is not a prison drama. Well, a prison drama of a sort, I guess.
I mean, yeah, sort of.
I guess. One of the best shows ever made, if you've never watched it.
Yeah. I will make it to Poor Marion. I've
always wanted to, and it looks pretty similar still. The colours have changed, but
I think they've pretty much kept it as it was. I think it's a heritage site. So
yeah, I think even back then, I think it was.
Yeah, I don't think they're allowed to do anything to it, to be honest.
And why would you? It's such a gorgeous looking place. I mean, in terms of being a prisoner somewhere, there are worse looking places. That's for sure.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, we're here to talk about new movies and what we've watched. So, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Okay, so I will start with The Whale.
The Whale, Oscar winning as of last week. The Whale. I'm really curious about this one because I've heard some pretty good things. So
Yeah. So Darren Aronofsky directing.
Yep.
Who has made some great movies. He also made Mother, which, you know.
Well, he does. I personally, I think The Wrestler is probably his strongest movie to me. And then he does, like, I don't know, he seems to go over the top a bit too much. And Mother is like the probably the worst case of that.
He really likes his biblical themes.
He does.
Give him that. I mean, I actually enjoyed Noah. It's a fucking batshit movie.
I enjoyed Noah. It made me laugh quite a bit, and I don't know if it was intentional. And
I don't think so.
I mean, the balls on the man to take a biblical tale and then add Star Trek V rock monsters. that for a biblical story, I was like, wow, you did that, huh? Yeah. Surprised you didn't get more flack for that, but fine.
I mean, he totally is. He did. He got some real shit for it, but I don't. He clearly doesn't give a fuck.
No, he's going to do what he's going to do, and I do respect him. He is one of those visionary directors. He's got a vision, and like it or not, it's unique. So
I mean, when I reviewed Mother,
your favorite film of all time.
The thing about Mother is the performances are beautiful, amazing. The directing is amazing. It looks beautiful. It sounds amazing. The movie itself, I fucking hated.
Yeah.
So, you know, all the right stuff is there, but oh man, that movie. Anyway, moving to this.
So, Mother.
And was
Mother the last one you saw of Aronofsky until now?
It's the last one he made. Yeah.
Okay, so here we are.
He went from that to this. So
is this the redemption?
So we've got Brendan Fraser as Charlie, Sadie Sink as Ellie, Ty Simpkins as Thomas, Hong Chu as Liz, and very briefly Samantha Morton as Mary.
Okay.
So we are. It's done. It was a stage play.
Yes.
And it's very much a movie of adaptation of a stage play.
Yeah.
But I don't see that as a bad thing in the way that it was filmed. It's filmed almost in one room.
Yeah.
It's just in his little apartment.
But I'm told the use of camera angles and stuff is pretty stunning.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's amazing shots of just little setup shots of the characters and stuff are just amazing. So we're introduced to Charlie, who is a literary teacher, and he teaches his class remotely, and they don't see him. He says it's
I was wondering how that worked.
Yeah, so they never see him. He says his camera's broken, so he teaches over the net. And he is a morbidly obese gentleman who seems to live alone, but is looked after by Liz, who comes in and she brings him food and she brings him medication. She makes sure he's doing things. She checks on him. She is a nurse.
Right. Was she his nurse or just a friend?
So I don't know whether she's specifically his nurse.
She is now, I guess, like it or not, but yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how much to give away, to be honest.
That's fair enough.
But I don't think she's his nurse, but she certainly does everything she can for him.
Sure.
And through the circumstance of his partner's death, he's basically eaten himself into his current position.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's really spoiling anything to say that he is clearly dying.
I think the trailers made that pretty clear. And
he wants to get basically in touch with his estranged daughter, who you find out basically he fell in love with someone and he left his family for I don't remember what his partner's name is. Anyway, he left her at 8, so obviously, she was obviously young enough to have been massively attached to her father, but not old enough to understand why.
Sure.
So now she is a bit of a delinquent, and she turns up, and he says, your mum doesn't know that you're here, does she? And she's like, no, and she's just vile, and she's I would say a typical teenager turned up to 8,
okay, yeah,
10, I should say. She's she doesn't seem to have any friends, and she takes pictures of weird things like dead dogs.
Okay, psychopath in the making, kind of.
Yeah, she seems to have serious anger management issues. And she does these horrible things, and his character is he's almost like the embodiment of seeing the good in people. He truly sees that people can do wonderful things and do great things.
So he's kind of given up on himself, but he sees everyone else is wonderful, and okay.
Yeah. And there's a sort of a visit from this missionary guy comes by. At the very beginning, he comes by, and Charlie's clearly having an episode, and he gets Charlie to read. He gets this Thomas. He gets Thomas to read this book report on Moby Dick to him.
Right.
And it kind of almost seems to calm him and bring him out of this what I suspect is probably a heart attack. And I mean, other than that, I don't want to.
No, that's fair enough.
The story itself. But like you said, it's all done in his apartment. Other than a few flashbacks, and it's mostly done in one living room kitchen scenario.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly staged. It's also filmed in the box format, so the edges are cut off. You've got no, it's old TV style. I forget the ratio, what they call
4:3.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Yeah,
but it's all done to make it more enclosed and more you're in there with him. And look, you said about the shots. There's some amazing shots of there's this one particular shot that I thought was stunning. Was Liz is this tiny little woman, and he's stood sort of over at one point, and you're behind her looking up at him, sort of almost through her, and it's a beautiful shot. It really it's stunning. And I don't mind that it's stage. I think in some cases it can certainly ruin a movie if it feels like stage play. But then most people don't go to the bloody stage. So I think if you want this to show people, then I'm kind of glad that he did it like this. It doesn't at all detract from it for me.
No.
Brendan Fraser, who I've always loved anyway, is amazing in this. I think that he's so well chosen because Brendan Fraser is absolutely lovable.
He's always struck me as just a really nice guy. So yeah.
I think most people who know Brendan Fraser, I think the overwhelming thing is that he's a lovable guy. He's a real, and he really brings out that in Charlie. I think he brings, and it's both horribly sad and also amazing that he has such hope as well.
Yeah,
it's a really, really good dynamic of
sounds like a really well written, complex character.
I think so. I think it does, and I think I would struggle to think of anybody else who could play it so well as that would make you feel for the character quite as much. And it could be easy to have just feel nothing but disgust for this character, because you do feel disgust for this character, and he says constantly, "Do I disgust you? Do I make you feel sick?" And he says it all constantly throughout the movie,
right?
And of course he does, because he is a grotesque character.
Mm-hmm.
But you
understand why he is in the situation he's in, and also that love for everyone else is probably quite infectious.
Yeah, it is. And Sadie Sink, she's. I would say she doesn't have that much to work with, other than being snarky teenager, which we know she can do.
Yep, she can do that
well. We've seen her in Stranger Things, and she's
good at that. Yep,
she's basically her character in that, but turned up, dialed up.
That is, I am afraid, a trap that I have seen a lot of the Stranger Things kids falling into.
Yeah,
just playing versions of those characters to varying degrees.
Which I think
some have escaped that, but
it's kind of understandable, because I think people have seen them do that and gone, "Wow,
they're in that awkward stage of being hired for being that character."
Yeah,
they're like, "Oh, we need a character like this." It's like, well, let's just hire that person who played that character. Fine,
But I mean,
but they're all very talented.
I was going to say, not to take anything away from her, because I think she does it really well, and she.
I think the cast of Stranger Things is one of the most remarkable group of kids in terms of acting, really. Yeah. So I hope they all can step out of the shadow of it.
I think some of the characters get a little short shrift in some of the seasons.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's the problem with ensemble.
Yeah,
casts like that, but.
The biggest surprise for me was Hong Chu. I don't think I've seen her in anything before. I think if I have, I think only in passing. So she plays Liz, the nurse friend character, and she is amazing as this person who clearly loves him and is clearly trying to help him, but knows that she can't help him, and knows that all she's doing is partially enabling him.
Right.
And partially just sort of seeing him through to the end, you know what I mean? You can see in her, it's also breaking her. It's, you feel that when he goes, what's she gonna do? What's gonna be left for her?
She was in The Menu, which is another film I've not watched.
It's on my list. It
looks really good.
I was hoping to see that as well, but I haven't got around to it, so I'm going to definitely see that and review it hopefully next time.
Yeah.
I mean, what more can you ask for? Anya Taylor-Joy and Ray Fiennes.
Ray Fiennes, yeah. I mean, amazing cast.
She is amazing. I mean, all the performances are great, but I thought she was particularly quite good. As we talk about the Oscars, and for you,
hey, it's one of the few years I'm not going to argue with a couple of them.
I mean, years ago we used to cover the Oscars.
We did. We used to on the movie show on the radio. We used to do it every year. Big thing.
Year it got less and less.
I don't think we barely mentioned it last year. I think all we mentioned was the slap, right?
Much it. Because that was all that anybody was interested in. That was all because the rest of it, to be fair,
it used to be as a film fan, the Oscars was everything, man. I used to look forward to it every year. Now I wouldn't watch it if you paid me.
But it's lost its meaning, hasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, and now to turn around and go, but they actually chose right this year. They chose the best movie, the best actress, the best.
Well, I can't speak for The Whale. I can certainly speak to Brendan Fraser, but I can certainly absolutely speak for Everything Everywhere, and the accolades piled on that film are 100% deserved, in my opinion.
For me personally, I think The Whale is a remarkable movie.
I'm glad. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I think it's a beautifully well done movie that some people may find mawkish or grotesque in some respects. It's garnered a lot of criticism for not casting a fat actor, and it's like I still don't get a lot of these things. It's like, he's an actor. It's called acting.
It's a role. I don't think I don't think it's safe for someone to.
No, I was going to say, one, asking an actor to put on that much weight in real life is ridiculous. Yeah. And two, finding an actor that talented, actually that size already, is going to be a hard find.
I think it's. I think you would be hard pressed to insure someone on a movie set to gain that much weight, and I just from a health and safety point of view, and you know, for the sake of the actor, I don't really see how you can argue that personally. I mean, fair enough. I guess people will argue anything on the internet. I have learned that. But I just don't see how it's practical or healthy for someone to gain that much weight, or finding an actor of that size. I'm not sure. It's a role, and I believe that people should be able to you know, play a role. It is I think a remarkable role. It's you know, it's a really great, and I mean, after the movie had finished, it's like I felt like I'd been punched. It was so that funny enough is the reason I haven't watched it yet, because I keep getting tempted, but I'm like, I need to be mentally in the right frame of mind to watch this movie.
Yeah.
And lately I've just been like, I need a bit of escapism. I'm a bit like feeling a bit rubbish, and I don't want to. It's the kind of film that's just going to really upset me, and I'm not in that frame of mind right now.
Feeling like that at the moment.
Yeah, just not like I'm not in a bad way or anything. Just I'm not like, you know. It's not a cry for help. I'm just saying sometimes I need to be in the right frame of mind to watch something, and at the moment I'm like, I want happy things. I can't, you know. Oh no.
I mean, hey, I'm feeling really happy. Let's go watch No Country for Old Men, or
yeah.
Blood,
I always remember back to I was feeling a bit like emotionally delicate, I guess, when me and my dad decided to watch The Railway Man.
Yeah,
but that fucking destroyed me, and I was like, no, I clearly need to be in the right. I mean, that movie would probably destroy me at my best of times, because that movie is. I don't know if you've ever watched that movie. It's a fantastic film.
I have seen it. I saw it not so long ago, and
it's a tremendous film. But it punches you in the gut, and so with this I was like, maybe in a week or so, when I'm feeling a bit more
one of
ready.
His best performances as well, that he.
I'm sure.
No, I mean Railwayman.
Yeah.
Christ, I can't remember. My brain's gone.
Yeah, mine too. I can see him.
Yeah. That's really annoying.
The Railway.
Why can't I remember his name? That's so bad.
Stars.
This happens every week.
I know. Normally I'm pretty good with this, but today even I have failed. I can see his face. Colin Firth, Jesus Christ, I could see his face as well. It was just fantastic movie, but an absolute gut punch. And I felt the same here. I saw the trailer. Even the trailer was making me kind of emotional. And I was.
I mean, you could probably call it manipulative, but yeah.
I don't. Well, I mean, that's the story.
But yeah, it's.
And what I mean isn't film all about manipulation, really, at the end of the day? I mean, you know, you're manipulating people into feeling things. It's not real, so you're manipulating people into that. I think that's fine. And I think this looks tremendous. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Like I said, I just want to be in the right frame of mind, which is the only reason I haven't. Yeah,
I would definitely say, you know, go in prepared, because it will kick you in the kidneys.
Yeah, and I know that. I'll watch it soon.
And listen, all the performances are great. Particularly Chew and Fraser. They're both stunning performances. It's really good. I still, you know, haven't forgiven Aronofsky from Mother, but this goes a long way to some sort of redemption for him.
Like I said, I think
my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, like him or love him in what he does, he is a visionary director, and there aren't many of them. So, you know.
No, and, you know, if it encourages more people to see something interesting and not just a big blockbuster, you know, crashy smashy movie, then absolutely. Yeah, I really loved it. I highly recommend it. But be warned of the gut punch.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I will certainly be checking that out soon. I'm trying to decide what to talk about first. I think I will go with the film I watched this weekend, and then I'll get to the one that I watched the weekend before after. My memory of it is fading, but it's fine. So I watched last weekend 65, which I'm confused by the film's title. It says... Is the film's title 65 or 65 million years ago? I think the tagline is million years ago, so I think the film is called 65. We'll assume that. So
it's one of those. It's a really weird thing because it's kind of telling you, it's not about Earth, but it's totally about Earth.
Well, it's telling you that it is about Earth immediately. Yeah. It's one of those weird things where when I watched the movie, I actually thought, you could have... I mean, I think it would have annoyed me if they'd done it, but they could have done it as a twist ending. And the reason I think that is because a lot of the dinosaurs I didn't actually necessarily recognize as dinosaurs that I knew. There were a couple, but you probably could have got away with it. You would have guessed the story anyway, I think. It's kind of... Actually, I think it's probably better off. They're very open about what's going on. And that's probably for the best, because I think in hindsight it probably would have annoyed me if they tried to keep this a secret until the end, because I think we would have guessed within the first 5 minutes. So there are some... This is an interesting one. So it's directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods, and written by Scott Beck and Brian Woods, starring Adam Driver and Ariana Greenblatt, who both 100% carry this movie. Adam Driver, as we know, one of the best actors cast in shit roles constantly. He is so talented.
There are so many movies where you just sit and watch him.
Yes.
He's amazing.
100%.
And then there are so many movies, it's like half of his movies are amazingly brilliant and great tour de forces of acting performances. And then there are other movies where he's like, why is he fucking in this movie? What is he doing?
And you can only blame a director when you know that an actor is that capable.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Ariana Greenblatt. Now, I've not seen her in anything before. I don't know if she's in other movies. She is amazing in this film. She
was in Love and Monsters. She was Minnow in Love and Monsters.
Oh, okay. She is amazing in this film. In terms of a child actor, one of the best I've seen in recent years. She is fantastic. And so is Adam Driver, but that goes without saying. So we have a few things here. So it starts off and it's very open. It's like, the opening, it starts out off going through space, and it's like, before humans existed. And, it's very clear, like, before humans, there were aliens and they were amongst the stars. And it's kind of humorous because it makes this big spiel about how, before the human race, other races walked the stars, and then it cuts immediately to a beach with American as fuck Adam Driver talking to his American as fuck wife, and it's like, it's fine. I feel like they should have done a Hunt for Red October, like start in an alien language, then translate it into English, and then become English, if that makes sense. Yep. Because it was kind of almost, I laughed, and I shouldn't have laughed. It was just silly. I was like, Americans in space, was what I said to my friend as we were watching. But anyway, opens on this beach, and it turns out that the character that Adam Driver is playing, called Mills, his daughter is dying. She has a disease. I don't think they say what it is. She has an illness, and she's dying, and in order to pay for treatment, Mills is going to take this role of basically is a colony ship, and he's ferrying these people across space. They're in like hibernation, or
there's been a lot of that recently.
Yeah, it is. Well, a lot of this film is it's a very tired old
dying kid. Yeah, and I need to take this job or this one last job. Or...
Sure. Yeah. But as a result, obviously, this trip is going to take 2 years. Which is longer than they'd planned. He's like, look, I'm all the way for 2 years. She's like, look, I understand. And she's like, I know why you're doing this, Dad. Like, you're doing this for me. and fair enough. He's initially worried that she'll hate him for it, but he's, she already understands. She's like, I know you're going for me, and that's fine. So anyway, they head off, and then there is he heads off. They stay behind. His wife and daughter stay behind. He heads off, and he gets like holo vids from her over time, it turns out. But somewhere during the voyage, there is the ship hits an asteroid belt, or comes into contact with asteroids that it wasn't expecting. You can probably guess where that's going. And hits the ship, and the ship crashes on Earth, prehistoric Earth. And what follows is less dinosaurs than you would expect, and a lot more character moments than you would expect for a movie that billed itself about being about giant stompy dinosaurs. It's a lot more. See, I don't think people are going to like this very much, because it's a lot more of Adam Driver and Ariana Greenblatt walking and talking and getting to know each other.
Okay.
So Ariana Greenblatt, her character Koa, is from a different race on their planet, from a different region, and so their translator's broken, so he can't understand what she's saying. They speak different languages. He doesn't know the language. So there's a language barrier between the two of them, and they try and communicate with each other to get to this point. So when they crash, they realize that half of the spaceship is in the mountains. He locates it in the mountains, and he discovers that through their technology, which is really crap, and we'll get to their technology being rubbish later, he determines that the escape shuttle is still intact in this half of the ship. So they want to get there and escape the planet. She, obviously being a child, just wants her parents. He lies and basically said, hey, your parents, they're over there in that ship. He knows they're dead, but he's like, they're over there.
What's left of them might be.
Yeah, effectively. So he crashes and is basically, initially, he thinks he's the only survivor. And sends a message as such saying, hey, one survivor, no point in coming for rescue, don't worry. But then discovers this other girl, and he's like, oh, okay, there is a survivor, send help, because we need to rescue this girl. And the story basically unfolds from there. We learn, through very early on that his daughter died while he was traveling, which is why he's kind of given up on life. And basically it's a race for them to escape the planet before the obvious thing happens that everyone has already fucking guessed from the fact that they hit an asteroid on the way in.
What could possibly that?
Yeah, what could that possibly be?
That's quite cryptic for me.
Now, this film kind of struggles in two places for me. One place is that it's a cast of fucking two, so goddamn well they're gonna be fine. Like, whenever there's peril, you're like, well, she's probably okay though, isn't she? Because otherwise, you know what I mean? Like, there's only two people in this movie, so the stakes are pretty goddamn high. And if she dies in the first 20 minutes, I don't see that happening, right? So there's that kind of issue. I mean, towards the end, you kind of get to the point where you're like, well, actually, I guess either of them could die at this point, and but early on, it's kind of that the danger early on is lessened by the fact that they're probably going to be fine. The other thing that I had real issue with this movie, and it's tiny things that you could fix, and I said to Ben, who I watched this with, I was like, you could have fixed this with a couple of lines of dialogue or a couple of visuals. The ship is traveling across space, and they say it was an unexpected asteroid field. The ship hadn't calculated the asteroids would be there, right?
Right.
But they have this advanced technology, and I'm not kidding when I say this ship is flying towards the fucking asteroids that I can see with my own eyes. There is a massive load of asteroids right in front of the ship, and the ship just flies straight into it. Like,
so we're not even talking like warp speed.
No. I mean, it's going fast, but I mean, like, when I can visually see the goddamn stuff, and you presumably have enough time to move out of the way, and it's not even alerting anyone. It doesn't alert anyone until the ship hits an asteroid, effectively. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, if you just show me a quick scene of like the sensors malfunctioning or like a mechanical fault or something, or even Adam Driver's Mills kind of commenting, Something's gone wrong here. That would have been fine. It's that little thing where it's like a couple of lines here, and it would be fine. You've also got the scene that I could, because after that it kind of added insult to injury, that he's got this device that can scan things and work out trajectories and stuff like that, and he scans the fucking asteroid that's about to collide with the planet. Clearly you can visually see that the bloody thing's going to collide with it does not look good, right? It's like clearly a looming problem, and the device is like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I don't know what that is. And then, later in the movie, it's like, oh yeah, that's going to hit Earth. But it's like, I could tell that was going to hit Earth just from looking at it with my eyes. So I don't know how you're struggling, device. But that aside,
clearly an advanced race.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's an advanced race, and they have this technology that is apparently rubbish. But that aside, I will say I had a really good time with this movie. It's a very basic plot. You know the plot. You know how it's going to go. You know how it's going to end. It would be difficult for me to spoil this movie. It's very straightforward and very obvious, but it's fine. As an tense action movie in Cretaceous Earth, it's fine. I really, I had a good time, mainly carried by the performances. But it's fine.
It's on something like The Whale, it has to be on those performances because there is very little else to go with.
I'm not going to put this on the level of The Whale.
No, I'm just saying, it's a very small cast.
Yes, it's a very small cast, and the cast are absolutely solid. They're fantastic. His daughter is fantastic. His wife is fantastic for the amount of time they're in it. Very little. Adam Driver is fantastic. The whole cast. Really, really strong.
Gave me vibes of that Will Smith.
It's better than After Earth. It's not that fucking bad.
I would hope it would be, but it still just made me think, that just seems like After Earth. And
I had the same worry going in. I was like, this reminds me of After Earth, and that's not a good thing. But having seen it, no, it's far better than that. It's just an action movie. Well, I say action. It's a movie with dinosaurs and bits of action and peril. And a very straightforward journey from A to B, treacherous journey with dinosaurs.
The thing it's for me, it's like, okay, I have questions. Like, if these are an advanced spacefaring race, where are they now?
Well, but I mean, that's the thing. I mean, where is this colony ship going? And you never know. You never know the destination of this colony ship.
Okay.
This was an accident.
There was no time dilation-y, wazzy.
No, because they're very clear that the round trip was going to take him 2 years, so there can't be much in the way of time dilation.
2 years isn't really that long for one of those big, deep space jobs, is it?
No, so you could assume that the thing could go... I mean, maybe the plan was that they were heading to Earth, to populate Earth, and didn't realise that the asteroid situation was going ahead. Maybe that's what they were planning. They don't tell you where they're going, to my knowledge. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the biggest issue with this film is the technology, and like, how was this able to happen? When I can see something visually, your sensors in a spacefaring race should be able to detect and move out of the way. I mean, a fucking Roomba can detect what's in front of it and move out of the way. I mean, like, it shouldn't be that hard. But that aside, it's a very straightforward movie. It's fine. I left the cinema and I said, I will probably never watch that film again. But I'm glad I watched it. It was fun. It's very short as well. It's like 93 minutes. So it's the perfect length. It tells a reasonable story. I really enjoyed the interactions between the lead and the support with Adam Driver and Ariana Greenblatt. I think that Ariana Greenblatt is absolutely a name to watch out for because her acting is superb in this.
I'm just looking at some of the things for her. It looks like she might be I think she's playing Tiny Tina in the Borderlands movie.
In the what movie? The Borderlands movie?
Borderlands movie, yeah.
Although that was a thing I didn't know was happening. We might have talked about that at some point.
I was going to say, I'm sure we have talked about it.
I might have deleted that from my brain. Okay, fine.
With that, it was only a matter of time before they made a Borderlands movie.
That's true. You're right. but she's fantastic in this, and I think she's one to look out for.
I remember her being really good in Love and Monsters.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a fine movie. It's not going to win any Oscars. There's nothing original about it, but the cast, the acting, and the short length of the film definitely makes it a worthwhile watch. I would wait until it's on streaming somewhere.
Yeah.
When it's on Amazon or Netflix for free, give it a watch. I don't think you'll regret the time you've spent. But it, like I said, it's not going to win any awards or anything. It's
as long as it's better than that After Earth. I mean,
that's a low. That's a very low bar, my friend. But yeah, it's certainly better than that. So, what else have you been watching?
Not a movie, but a series. I saw 1923.
1923, yes.
All the episodes of that now. So this is another one of the Taylor Sheridan series, as a link to Yellowstone. So this is the mid. Oh, it was not quite mid because it's obviously between.
It makes me laugh.
1883 and now.
It's billed when you look at the poster. It says 1923, a Yellowstone origin story, and it's like I wish underneath it had like a sequel, like it's like a Yellowstone origin story, a sequel to 18.
Yeah, how they got there. So I mean, it's a great cast. Harrison Ford, Helen Mirren.
Yeah.
Never seen that. Brandon Skillana. Julia Schopfer, Jerome Flynn, and for crying out loud, Timothy Dalton.
Fantastic.
On villain duty.
As well he should. He is very good at being a villain.
Oh yes, he's totally.
He's really fallen into that role in more recent years.
He has, yeah. I think it's the voice.
Well, I think it's the way of Bond.
Yeah.
Because, it's the same with Pierce Brosnan. I think he makes a fantastic villain now.
He does.
I think Bond gets to an age and then he makes the perfect villain.
Although I'm not sure about Daniel Craig. But...
yeah, he's got a while to go yet, though.
So obviously this is, again, about the Dutton family, and it's, not quite so far removed from the 1800s one. So it's, the two sons of them, have now grown up.
Yeah.
One is still on the farm. The other one has been through the First World War, and his experiences have basically made him a sort of wanderer, but he basically spends his time in Africa as a hunter, and right. he basically goes to things like, where they have man-eaters,
Okay, so he's like pest control for...
Yeah, he's basically pest control. So, if tourists or workers or something are being attacked by lions or leopards or something, he'll turn up and
deal with them.
Kill the animal. Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren are an uncle that now run the Yellowstone, and it's the Great Depression is happening, and they're experiencing a drought, and some basically awful conditions mean that they're in serious trouble because they're not going to be getting the money they want because the war is over. What happened in real life is that all the families and all of the ranchers and that had these amazing government contracts where they were getting paid to supply troops. Then the war ended and the depression hit, and there were all these ranchers that had fields and fields of cattle with the government going, well, we can't pay for them anymore. There's, they're your problem now.
Yeah.
And, left all these ranchers completely and utterly fucked. Whereas most of the other ranchers are all falling along the wayside because they've all taken out mortgages and things, or taken out loans and things like that. They haven't, but due to other circumstances, it's going wrong for them. So while that's going on, you also got Jerome Flynn's character, who is a sheep farmer, and his group of sheep farmers, they're all fighting for the same grazing land.
Okay.
So you then got a range war happening between these two factions.
Yeah.
And into that range war comes Dalton's character, who is this hugely rich businessman who sees an opportunity. There's basically a mine on this. There's I can't remember whether it's silver or whatever it is. There's a mine on this thing that he's basically bought on the land, and he sees an opportunity to basically just buy up everything. So he's, this series is complete villain against the noble rancher, if you like. So you've got the story of back home. You've got the story with the son in Africa who meets this lady, this English lady, and they immediately fall in love, and they sort of run away together. Due to horrible things happening on the homestead, they're trying to get him to come back home. So the later part of the story becomes more of, for him, trying to get back home with his new girl, and the stuff that happens to them. So you've got these two, stories. You then got this other story of Tiona Rainwater, who is a Native American girl who is living in one of those awful Catholic native schools where they're basically trying to beat the native out of them, and they're trying to civilize them.
Right.
And there's these awful nuns that are just doing terrible things to them, and she basically, not going to spoil anything from what she does, but she does leave, let's say.
Sure.
So you've got her story as well, and these things. For me, that story was weird because it almost takes away from the main stuff. It's not that it's a bad story or anything like that. It just feels slightly out of place. It feels, because none of the characters, I mean, I'm sure at some point they will all interact with each other.
Yeah.
But they feel so very separate from anything because they don't have any connection so far that you see. And it's not that it's a bad story. I almost think that should be a series in itself, following her and her family and what's going on with them. But in the terms of this series, it seems a bit weird and it seems a bit odd.
Yeah.
That they keep almost taking away from the main story. Helen Mirren and Ford are obviously they're brilliant, and it's one of those times where Ford clearly gives a fuck.
Yeah.
We've seen.
Yeah, oh God, he cannot.
So many things in the last 10 or so years.
He's past the age where he can be bothered to hide that.
Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck anymore. He's clearly doing stuff for a paycheck that I'm not sure he needs sometimes.
Yeah.
But this, I think he genuinely feels something for. So he's actually feels like he's acting, not just turning up and saying his words. And his chemistry with Mirren is really good. And I think that's maybe partly to do with the fact that they were in Mosquito Coast together.
Mm-hmm.
So whether they, I don't know whether they had a great relationship then, and it continues. But
yeah, maybe they continue to be friends.
Yeah, they're a great,
I mean, let's not forget they're both very accomplished, amazing actors.
Absolutely,
so,
they've been doing this for a very long time. They're both brilliant.
Certainly, if they wanted to fake that, they could. They're both very capable. Yeah,
that is very true. The minor cast, all the sons and the other ranchers, they're all doing their part. They're all there's a few sort of remarkable little things.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's just like Yellowstone and like the other, it does feel like it's an incredibly well done soap opera. It's.
I mean, I said to you when you said you'd watch this, I was like, I can't imagine they'd fuck it up at this point. Like, you know, they're on such a roll.
No, it's. I mean, I think it's Paramount, isn't it? It's Taylor Sheridan is Paramount's jewel at the moment. It's the only thing that's making them money. So they're going to keep giving him series. And there is this one, unlike the first one. I think although they are going to continue the 1800 story, it's not going to be quite the same thing because of what happens in that show. But this is definitely getting a second season. So it's already set up that we have a second season ready to go.
Well, and maybe some of those threads that you were like, I don't know how that seems very separate. I guess
it does feel that at some point they will connect, but for the majority of this season, like I said, it's not like it's bad because it's not. It's a really good storyline. It's a really interesting storyline, but it does feel slightly separate from, you know, what the main thing that's going on. I'm sure she will turn out to be the ancestor of one of the characters that's in Yellowstone. Pretty sure of that, but you know, we'll see.
Time will tell.
And it's you know, it shows the usual sort of things that you would expect from this sort of time period. You know, the depression, but with the coming of electricity and the coming of home appliances, and the fact that, you know, the ranch in the middle of nowhere has none of those things. They don't have lights, and they don't have, you know, all those sort of amenities. And you know, she sees interesting Helen Mirren's character sort of like they're walking along the town at one point, and there's the guy sort of showing off the latest fridges and washing machines and stuff. And of course, you know, Ford's character's like, I don't need any of that, and she's like, ooh, that sounds really interesting.
You know,
those little sort of things.
Benefit of living in the modern world. I am going to argue fridges are useful, buddy.
Fridges are really useful.
Definitely one that I would keep on the pile.
Yeah, it's really enjoyable. I think it's of the three series as a whole, I think it's the lesser of the three.
Okay, but still fantastic.
For me, the 1883 for me was an almost perfect series, but I think it mainly because of what it is and the specific storyline really appealed to me. You know, just slightly more, and I think it's a because of the way it's set up, it's a more straightforward storyline, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, not saying much. It's still a really, really bloody good, well done series that I would highly recommend to anybody who, and especially if you like Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to, you know, watch it? And it's just a brilliantly well crafted, highbrow soap opera, I suppose you would call it, which is exactly what Yellowstone is. So, you know, Yellowstone's basically been described as, you know, an update version of Dallas. It's
sure.
I think it's slightly cruel, but not.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a really good series. I'm looking forward to season 2.
Excellent.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's all of these shows are on my list. I need to kind of watch them all. I did joke one day I might just watch them all in the order of years that they come out.
Yeah, that would be...
But yeah, I keep hearing nothing but good things about these series, so I will certainly check them out at some point. So my 2 weeks back now, went to see Creed 3. I am a huge Rocky fan. Unapologetically so. I will even sit through Rocky 5 and have a good time. It's not a good movie, but there are bits I enjoy. So, you know, this was a shoo-in for me. I love the Rocky films. Certainly have their ups and downs, but for the most part, I think they're fantastic. And I really enjoyed Creed. I thought Creed was a wonderful reboot, or not reboot, I guess, soft reboot sequel, focusing on Apollo Creed's son Adonis Creed, with the support from Stallone as Rocky Balboa. Now an aging Balboa, we certainly don't want to see Stallone climbing in the ring again. I think Rocky Balboa was pushing it when he did that movie. Fantastic as that film. That film was way better than it had any right to be. But
I mean, to be honest, as we've said before, I think even before, by the time you get to 5, he should probably be
100%.
4, or even he should probably be a vegetable that can barely.
Yeah, I mean I think Stallone was very honest about how he said, like, looking back, the sound of those punches and the amount of punches were just so ridiculous in those later movies. They become it's almost like an alternate universe, you know. You've got 1 and then you've got like 2, 3, 4, and 5, or certainly 3, 4, and 5 are like alternate universe, and then Rocky Balboa feels like it's bringing it back to the origin of 1 and that kind of more grounded view. Certainly the Creed movies have tried to stay more in line with Rocky Balboa and Rocky.
There was a lot I liked about Creed, but overall it wasn't. I didn't.
Oh, it's not as good as Rocky.
As much as you did, but
yeah, I don't think it's as good as Rocky, the first movie. But I liked it. I'm a big Michael B. Jordan fan. I think he's a great actor. I think he's great. So Creed 2 for me was okay. Like it was not as good as the first one in my opinion. I think it was interesting. Like they did the Ivan Drago's son. So obviously Ivan Drago killed Apollo Creed, who is Michael B. Jordan Creed's father, who he never knew. So there was that tension, but at the same time it's like, well, it was a father you never knew anyway, so it was kind of awkward in that way.
Yeah,
it was interesting but kind of awkward. However, I did think it had a lovely send-off for Rocky at the end. He reunites with his son, and you get the feeling that the whole way through Creed 2, Balboa was struggling with that, and he finally worked up the courage to reunite with his son and talk to his son and meet his grandson or daughter, I forget now. Anyway, Creed 3, big falling out between Stallone and the studio. Stallone threw his toys out of the pram, spat his dummy out, and stormed off. And so we get to Creed 3, a Rocky-less movie for the first time in the Rocky franchise. I guess you can still call it the Rocky franchise.
Do they mention Rocky?
They mention Rocky.
Is he still around, or is he dead? Have they killed him off screen?
So, oh god. Okay, well, to start with a negative, this is the biggest problem with this movie. They should have killed Rocky off. This film, honestly, in my opinion, should have opened with his funeral. Because it is... I'm going to get to how much I enjoyed this movie, because I really enjoyed Creed 3. I think this was better than Creed 2. And I think as a standalone boxing film, I loved this movie. I was invested. I thought the characters were fantastic. But it is distracting when we know that Rocky's alive and what Creed is going through, particularly that final fight. You're like, how is he not watching this fight? How is he not in the crowd? How is he not even just showing a text message from him or something, or like a phone call, like a one-sided phone call, so we don't see Stallone? And I understand why. I think Michael B. Jordan and Stallone actually get on well. I don't think there's an issue there. I think the issue is between Rocky and the studio, between Stallone and the studio. And I think that Michael B. Jordan was probably being respectful and thought, well, I won't kill him off, so that perhaps he can come back in Creed 4 if that's something we want to do, right? But for me, it was distracting having Rocky mentioned in the movie, but never seen, and for Creed to be going through all of this, and for Rocky to never appear. It almost felt more awkward with them mentioning him and not showing him, that if they'd either ignored him altogether, or what I would have done would have been to open with his funeral and then have the whole movie continue on from there. But that aside, I thought Creed 3 was a fantastic film. We opened several years after Creed 2, and Creed is retiring. Adonis Creed is retiring. He's having his final match against Pretty Ricky, who was the main opponent from the first Creed movie. He's now out of prison, and they're having this retirement bout, which Adonis wins. He then retires because they have a daughter. who is completely deaf. So it was made clear in the first Creed that the character played by Tessa Thompson, Bianca was going deaf. She was losing her hearing. Their daughter is completely deaf. He decides he's going to retire. I guess he's retirement age anyway. A lot of injuries, and he's going to just set up a boxing school. He's got like the Apollo boxing or Creed boxing school, and that's what he does now. He kind of, you know, in movie terms, he would be the executive producer of the boxing school, which is like he turns up occasionally, you know, but basically Duke Jr. is running, little Duke is running the whole thing. Yeah, you know. But he meets or comes across Jonathan Major's character, Damien, who is a old friend from their from his past when they were kids. So they used to both live in what would you call it, like a home for orphans, an orphanage kind of, I guess.
Okay.
And basically they grew up together in this orphanage before Apollo Creed's Marianne, Apollo Creed's wife, comes to pick him up, which she did in you saw in the opening of Creed. So they were together due to an event that happened in their past. Damien ended up going to jail. He's been in prison this whole time, and he's now out. And he is at first seemingly quite, you know, just humble and happy to kind of see Adonis again, and they reunite, and he makes it clear, we see in the early parts of this movie that Damien is a fantastic boxer. He always wanted to be a boxer. That was his career path. That was stopped by him going to prison, and in the meantime, obviously, Adonis has become this very accomplished boxer, and Damien's very clear that he wants to be the world champion, and he says to Adonis, like, oh, you know, help me. And he makes it clear that he was kind of disappointed he never heard from Adonis. And we later learned that Damien wrote to Adonis, but that Marianne hid the letters because she was protecting her son, because she knew that Damien was, you know, wrong side of the tracks, or she thought he was the wrong side of the tracks and a bad influence. But Adonis, you know, obviously he didn't realize the letters weren't there, but the truth is that Adonis was kind of left it too long. He felt he left it too long as a kid. He was a scared kid when they went to prison, and he basically left it too long, and then it was kind of easier to ignore rather than deal with the situation. So, you know, Damien certainly has some reasons to have this kind of bitterness about him. But Adonis agrees to train him, and he takes him to the gym, and obviously little Duke, played by Wood Harris, he remembers Damien, and he knows that Damien's a bad guy, so he's like, you know, I don't want this kid in the gym, I don't want to train him, but they do anyway. And ultimately, through this plot, Damien and his ex-con friend beat up, or his ex-con friend beats up Victor Drago, the son of Ivan Drago, who is the next in line to face Creed's current champion, the current champion, I think it might be Felix Chavez, the current champion from Creed's school. And as a result, you know, Victor's out of the fight because he has a broken hand, and Damien is allowed to step in. Obviously, humble Damien, but there are kind of warning signs that he's probably not a good idea, and people warn him. But Adonis is like, "Hey, there is someone here. You need to fight soon, and Damien's here. You could fight Damien." Damien kind of takes some cheap shots in the match. He cheats his way to a victory, underhanded. And shortly after starts calling out Adonis and, you know, saying what kind of a horrible person he is, and that, you know, he left him all these years ago and abandoned him, and you know, kind of muddying his shitting on his name, basically. So Creed, of course, has to take up the fight, and you know, decides to come out of retirement and fight. And honestly, I thought this story was probably one of the stronger Rocky stories. I think the chemistry between Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors is fantastic. I am a big fan of Jonathan Majors at this point. I thought he was great in what was that film? Devotion.
Yeah.
Devotion. Not like the best movie, but he was fantastic in that movie, and he's fantastic here as a completely different character.
What I've seen with Jonathan Majors is that he is a really good actor that keeps getting put in terrible movies. Just like.
I mean, I'm not going to speak for Kang the Conqueror, but I could probably assume that's not the best written character ever.
Yeah.
At this stage. And similarly, funny enough, I was thinking the same about Tessa Thompson. Watching this movie reminded me that Tessa Thompson's actually a very good actress. She just gets cast in these fucking roles. Like when she's in a good role, she is really good. She's fantastic here. I was reminded instantly of why I really loved her character in these movies. So Jonathan Majors is fantastic in this. I really think that the story between these two, the childhood story and the trauma and everything that happened between them, makes for a really good, compelling setup for the fight between these two. And one of my favorite things about this movie is that after we actually get to see them talk after the fight, which you rarely see in a Rocky movie. You do get bits of it. Like, sometimes Rocky would do that after. Like, in the next movie, you see Apollo Creed and Rocky talk. In Rocky 2, you see them catch up after Rocky 1. But here we see it in the same film. So they have the fight, and then afterwards, they have a talk. And I really enjoyed seeing that. It's a much more compelling story, I think, than certainly Creed 2. And maybe even Creed 1. I mean, Creed 1's kind of carried on the fact that Adonis wants to prove that he wasn't a mistake. Because obviously, Apollo never talked about him, and it was like a hidden affair. So he wanted to prove he wasn't a mistake. Here, it feels almost more personal in a way, where it's someone from Adonis's childhood who looked after Adonis and really was trying to protect Adonis when he went down. And we find out the reason why all of this went down. We see it through flashbacks, and we see that Adonis was a kid, but he made mistakes too, and he's probably somewhat, or he feels at least, responsible for Dame taking going down. So I thought it was a really compelling story. I think they have they've kind of screwed themselves for sequels, to my mind, purely from the fact that they do the James Bond thing from Skyfall, where they're like, "You're old and knackered, you can't do this fight," and then he kind of wills himself to the one more fight. But then it's like, that works really well, and I loved it in Skyfall when it's like, "Oh, you're old and broken," but I was always like, "But you can't have a sequel now because he's old and knackered," and like, really? You're going to keep going?
The Craig movies did that even in the second movie.
He's getting older in the second one, but by the third one, they're like properly like, "No, you are knackered. You can barely hold yourself together."
Yeah, and those fucking Craig movies.
Yeah, I know. I know you're not a fan. I like Skyfall, but I think it's like, after that, it should have ended, because like, he's too old and knackered. And obviously Creed gets in incredible shape, and Michael B. Jordan's in ridiculous shape anyway. So he looks amazing, but they make a point of talking about all of the various injuries he's got and how they have to work around it and stuff. And you're like, as a boxer, he's pretty old now, right? And I just think, making it clear to the audience that he's that knackered physically is like, I just don't see how you're going to keep.
But they did exactly the same with Rocky, and they kept him going for years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it was the same.
By the second, But
I always find it interesting, though, how these reboots, soft reboots, sequels, late sequels, try to reinvigorate a franchise and then very quickly fall into the same mistakes that the previous franchise fell into, like Halloween.
Yeah.
Halloween 2016 or whenever it was, they tried to, like, they were like, "Oh, let's ignore all of the craziness from the sequels and go back to him just being this really old but killer." And then immediately they fall into that, "Oh, he's supernatural now." And it's like, you guys, you just tried to undo all of that. And now you've done the same thing. And they do the same here, where it's like, "Oh, you're old and knackered." It's like, you made this mistake in Rocky, and now it's like, you know, it's going to be difficult for them to do sequels. But honestly, if this wasn't a movie connected to Rocky, if this was just a boxing movie, this is fantastic. It's a fantastic film. It's really well acted, really well written. I love it. My only real complaint is the awkwardness around it being a Rocky movie without Rocky. And if they just killed him off in the opening, I think it would have been far, far better for them. Personally, that's how I feel about it.
I think the question is with that, you know, being that Stallone isn't involved.
Yeah.
Did they want to take that step of murdering his character?
Well, I'm guessing, because this is the...
Even if they don't
I don't know if this is the directorial debut of Michael B. Jordan. It might be. But obviously Michael B. Jordan directed this, and I'm guessing that he decided to keep him around because I think he gets on well with Stallone and wanted to leave that door open. But it does make the film feel awkward as a result, in my opinion. Because it's like, why wouldn't Rocky be here for your massive fight against your childhood friend? And like, after he's shot on you in public so much, we know the character of Rocky. He would totally be there, you know?
Well, like you said, just a small... you know, well, like you said about the
a text or something, so you don't even need to show Stallone, but you just show the character of Rocky is, you know, or a one-sided conversation where he's talking to Rocky, and you just hear Adonis's side, but you know, and then he sort of turns to Tessa Thompson's character or whatever. It's like, you know, Rocky's, you know, sending his lover or something, you know, something. It feels really awkward. As a result. But that aside, I thought this was a fantastic film. It's really, really good. Solid boxing movie. And like I said, Michael B. Jordan, I'm a big fan of his acting, and I think Jonathan Majors is quickly becoming a favourite of mine too. I think he's fantastic in this. I hope he, like Tessa Thompson, I hope they both escape this Marvel trash. You know? Like, get back to some good roles, please. Although I can't speak for Kang. I mean, maybe it's amazing. I don't know. I'm never going to watch Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantum Mania. You know, I'm not. They're not for me. But they're, you know, fantastic acting, fantastic film. I'll watch the next one, regardless of my bitching of the injuries and stuff. I know I'm going to watch it, so I'm not going to pretend like I won't. But yeah, fantastic third outing that really could have stood on its own if it wasn't a Creed movie and therefore a Rocky movie.
That's the question, whether it will sustain itself without Rocky. But this one seems to have done really well. So
it's a solid movie.
I think there obviously there's a love for the Creed character. Maybe...
Yeah, I genuinely love the Creed character, not as much as I love Rocky, because Rocky's been with me since my childhood, I guess.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
You know, and the character of Rocky, I mean, he's so like stupid but nice, and you know what I mean, like, you know, there's something infectious about that character. But Creed, I mean, Adonis Creed, I absolutely love the character, and I want to follow them on the journey, you know. So we'll see. I'm sure they'll make another one, so we'll see where it goes. Anyway, I have been waiting this entire show more than the whale. I want to hear about Cocaine Bear.
Okay, so
because I've been intrigued by this one for a long time.
So directed by Elizabeth Banks, who, you know, we've had a weird relationship with in the last couple of years with her,
up and down,
weird statements and starring Kerry Russell, Eldon Ehrenreich, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Ray Liotta. I think it's Ray Liotta's last movie.
I believe it's certainly one of them, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's how I first found out about this film.
Being his last movie.
Because Ray Liotta died, and I was like, oh god, that's awful, because I love Ray Liotta, loved a lot of his roles. And I looked it up, and I was like, his last movie is a film called Cocaine Bear. What the fuck is that? And then, of course, we later saw the trailer and everything else, so...
Yeah. So, this is, you know, it's set in the 80s. It's sort of based on the real story of...
Of course.
A bunch of cocaine came out of a plane, and a bear basically, you know, found it and ate it what really happened is that the bear ate it and then promptly died.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem with a lot of these, like, based on a true story. Is like, what? So you mean the true story is that once there was a bear that ate some cocaine?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the whole truth of the story here. Yeah.
I think it got stuffed and bought by, I think somebody famous. I can't remember who it was, but it got stuffed and it ended up in the mall for years. Apparently, it was like on display in a mall for a number of years.
Right.
So this obviously it'd be a very short movie if that was the case. This one takes the premise that the bear then goes on a rampage and
of course
eats some tourists and stuff. So you've got the bear doing that. You've got Kerry Russell's character, who is a single mum. Her and her daughter Dee Dee. She goes off to work, and Dee Dee basically skips school with her friend Henry, and they decide they're going to go off and have an adventure. Henry, played by Christian Convery, who was Gus in Sweet Tooth.
Oh yeah.
So they're off doing their little having their little adventure in the forest. You've got Margot Martindale's character, who is a ranger Liz, who basically is sort of gussying herself up for a visit from Pete, who is some sort of ranger representative or something. You've got a weird little gang of youths that are robbing people in the woods. You've also got Ray Liotta's crime boss, who the drugs should have been coming to him, but obviously they're not. The guy who was transporting the drugs basically was messed up, and when he was leaving the plane, he smashes his head on the door frame coming out, and obviously knocks himself out. Doesn't open his parachute, so he's obviously didn't make it. So Liotta brings out David, who's played by O'Shea Jackson, who's he says, you've got to go down there and get all this cocaine. You've got to go find it all and take my son with you. He's like, my son's this. He's clearly going through some sort of thing. His partner's died, and he's having this sort of breakdown. And Ray Liotta is looking after his son, and he doesn't want to look after his son. So there is a fuck ton going on in this movie. Not only that, you've also got Bob, played by Isaiah Whitlock Jr., who's a detective trying to get Ray Liotta's character. So he's there. Okay. He goes down. So all these characters are all sort of basically getting to the forest to basically get killed by the bear.
Of course.
So, oh god, there is way too much going on in this movie.
For a film about a fucking coked up bear killing people, yes, I would say it didn't need much in the way of plot.
No. There were little things like the copper has this sort of thing about this dog that he's got, and the weird thing with these like youths that are robbing people, and Mario Martindale's character trying to get in with this dude, and
right.
It's like, what is going on in this movie? I just want to see the bear eat people. Can we see the bear eat people?
Yeah, like we don't want.
The bear's barely in it.
We don't need much in the way of characterization of side characters in Jaws. We just want to see the shark eat people and then them take the shark down.
To be fair, you could half the cast list on this movie.
Yeah,
you don't need the ranger story. You don't need the stupid kids robbing people. You don't really need Kerry Russell and the kids, other than the fact that, as fodder. You don't need their story. All it should have been was the two criminals trying to find the drugs and whoever else is in the vicinity.
Yeah.
It tries to do so much, and most of the humor completely falls on its ass. there are jokes that are like, oh, that was funny, but then there are these great, hilarious bits where the bear is running around, eating people in quite frankly hilarious ways. But the movie should have just been that, and it's not. Honestly, what is it? An hour and 30 minutes, basically, this movie. I would say that probably the bear is in it for 30 minutes.
Right.
There's so much fucking awful faffing in this movie that and there are weird decisions. There's like a moment where doesn't really matter whether I spoil anything. There's not anything to spoil. But Kerry Russell has gone into this cave to find her daughter, and they've bumped into a tourist that is from earlier, who sort of helps them out, but he stays outside, right? And then the criminals come along, and they're at the entrance of the cave, and they're walking along, and one of them says, "Hey, do you remember that time that we found that dead tourist outside?" And then you get a flashback to a moment later where they just found a corpse, which clearly was just before they came into the cave.
Right.
Why the fuck
That's bizarre.
Put a flashback there? It was so weird. This movie is an absolute fucking mess.
Sounds like the writers were on cocaine.
Oh, yes. The direction was fine. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting.
No.
I mean, it almost sounds like it makes a mistake where it strays away from the Jaws formula, really.
Yeah, this could have been so much more funny if they'd have just kept it as
a bear
slasher, basically.
Yeah.
A bear slasher movie.
Which is what they sold it as.
Yeah, exactly. It needed to be way more over the top. It needed to be, and I mean, even like the 80s setting, it's proper sort of we just went to the 80s store and bought a load of 80s stuff.
Oh yeah, that's my pet hate in recent cinema.
A bit where Kerry Russell she doesn't know where her daughter is.
Right.
They've gone off onto the forest, and she's like, oh, where are they gone? She finds that one of their bags in the yard, and she takes the bag and she opens it, and it literally just the 80s pours out of this bag.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, there's like a Rubik's Cube and a Slinky, or there's all these stupid, and it's like, wow, you really are trying way too hard with this. You don't. We get it. It's the 80s. Okay, fine. It's not a terrible movie, but it's not a good movie. It's just an utter mess. It tries to do too much. It has so many stupid little storylines going along that it completely doesn't need. We don't need to try and. I know, some people say that they don't watch slashers because it's just stupid kids coming in and getting murdered, and then you're not attached to any of these kids or anything.
And that is the formula.
But that's the formula. That's the kind of the point. This movie tries to make you sort of feel something for all these characters. It's like, yeah, but I don't care about these characters. I don't want to know about these characters. I just want to see the bear eat some people and have a weird and amusing side bit.
And that is fine.
Like I said, there are genuinely hilarious moments in it, but there are so much more that just clangs. There's so much humor that just really doesn't hit.
So I guess
all performed by really good actors. The cast's really good. The two, Eddie and David, Jackson Jr. and Ehrenreich, their characters, it kind of should have just been those two, really, trying to find the drugs and trying to stay alive. That would have been so much more interesting than the mess that goes on. And sad to say, this is Ray Liotta's Street Fighter.
Oh no!
It really is. It's like, oh, Ray, what are you doing? What? Oh, it's please stop. It's just.
So he's Raul Julia.
He is totally Raul Julia.
No.
Yeah, in this movie,
That's a shame.
It's not. I mean, I don't think I can recommend it.
I'll just watch Grizzly again instead.
Yeah, just watch Grizzly. Yeah, blimey, there's a movie I haven't seen for a while. I mean, the CGI is
passable.
Not great.
It kind of looks ropey even in the trailer. If I'm honest.
Yeah, and it kind of, there are some genuinely funny bits with the bear that, that work really well, despite the fact that it's not a terribly convincing. It's at times bear. I don't know how to quite.
Well, I've got to say, I'm almost disappointed to learn that they tried to even stray from the formula of a slasher movie with a coked up bear. That was the entire premise, and everyone was sold on that premise.
Yeah.
It's not like people were like, "Oh God, this movie needs complex characters and story." Like, no, it really doesn't. Like, yeah. Oh well.
And they're all silly, over the top characters as well. Yeah. They're all like, and you constantly find yourself going, "Stop doing this! Why are we seeing this? Why is this going? What is going on with this fucking film?" It is just a horrible, horrible mess. That I honestly can't recommend. Okay. There's just not enough of the good stuff to make it worthwhile. I don't think it's a huge disappointment for something that
it should just be such a simple movie.
Yeah, it's a simple premise that they should have just really lent into and got
100%
that and left the other stuff that just doesn't work. So yeah, I can't recommend it. It's not a great movie at all. I'd say give it a pass, honestly.
Oh well. So anyway, that's everything, right? That is everything. I will definitely be checking out The Whale. Like I said, I just need to be in the right frame of mind to watch The Whale. But I'll probably watch Cocaine Bear at some point as well. But I'll definitely wait for that one. I'm not rush out to see that one.
Yep.
But is there anything else you would like to cover?
Just Lance Reddick.
Yeah, it sucks, dude.
60.
Yeah, younger than I thought, actually.
Yeah, I mean, what a phenomenal actor.
A phenomenal actor who has, The Wire.
Yep.
His performances in John Wick. He's great in good stuff. He's also great in terrible stuff.
Yes.
Even when he's in trash, he is fantastic. He was always one of those actors. If he's in a film, his performance will be solid.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, Fringe, one of the things that sort of kind of drew me, made me aware of him was he's amazing in Fringe, and he's really funny as well. He was I mean, if you've seen some of the comedy sketches he did for Funny or Die, they're really great.
I don't know if I have, actually. I used to watch quite a lot of Funny or Die, but I don't remember.
I think it's Toys of Me, or it's really hilarious. It's just him as
I might have to check that out.
Story. It's really funny. He did some amazing little sketches that just showed that he had an amazing sense of humor. And what just was, seemed to be a real wonderful guy. And I mean, he was in that. There was that Resident Evil thing that, thankfully,
I never watched it.
Wasn't his last performance. I'm looking forward to seeing him in.
Yeah, thank God. He did John Wick 4, which I'm hearing very good things about. It. I'm glad that Resident Evil wasn't his final.
Yeah,
project.
And he's such a minor part of those movies, but he's really bloody good in them.
He's one of my favorite characters in John Wick.
Yeah, the concierge is
great.
amazing.
He's fantastic, yeah.
And he does get his moment to shine in the third one.
I'm really hoping he gets a bigger moment in John Wick 4 as well, because it feels like it's the climax, and I would like to see,
the only thing that rings alarm bells for that one is that there is a lot of people in that movie.
It's a long movie though. It's
There's
like
a lot going.
isn't it like 3.5, 3 hours long or something? It's a really long movie. So there's time.
Yeah. Wonderful actor.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt.
Yeah.
Have you had a thought about what we're going to do next time? Because we talked about this and we weren't sure, were we? We're going to do a comedy.
I think your suggestion.
What was my suggestion?
I think Hot Fuzz.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I'm up for Hot Fuzz. Good
one
movie.
Of the newer movies that we've done.
Yeah.
But I think, Hot Fuzz.
Alrighty.
And I think, although controversially maybe, I prefer Shaun of the Dead.
I think a lot of people. I think I feel like I'm in the minority preferring Hot Fuzz, and that's not to say that Shaun of the Dead or World's End are bad movies, because I like all of them.
Yeah, they're all great. But I think we've covered quite a lot of zombie movies, and we've covered a lot of horror movie type things recently.
We have indeed.
So I think Hot Fuzz will.
All right.
Will. I mean, you could argue that the Hot Fuzz is a horror as well.
It's certainly got moments.
It does certainly lean on the folk horror tropes at some points. there were similarities between that and the Wicker Man, let's say.
Yeah.
But we can go into those later.
Absolutely, we can. We will do that next time. But yeah, so we'll be back next week with Hot Fuzz. But until then, stay safe, take care, and we'll catch you next time.